Hey guys, welcome back to the What's Next podcast. Coming to you from beautiful Monterey, California. Brought to you, as always, by Live Well Therapeutic Massage right here on the beach. Today I've got an exciting guest for you. I think you're going to dig this one, Mr. Tom Chuckerel. Chuckerel?
Yep.
Yeah. I've known Tom for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months now.
Yeah.
And, boy, we just hit it off right away, you know. Tom is he teaches Jiu-Jitsu for the Gracie
Family, yep.
family there. So I don't know a whole lot about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and if you were to talk to somebody that knew, you guys could get right off. But I'm going to probably ask some really stupid questions, some basics.
There are no dumb
Bring
questions.
us up to speed on what Jiu-Jitsu is.
Of course.
You know, Wade and I grew up in a time of the 80s when there was just particular styles, or this, you know, ask him what style he is of, you know, it's like it was all so complicated, and you guys taking it to a whole new level.
I think we're close to the same age, man.
Are you really?
Yeah.
No way. You look
53.
so young. Are you really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm about 60, so
We're
a
close.
little over,
We're close,
but yeah,
man.
so you do remember those
Yes.
early times when they were headbutting against, okay,
Yes.
we're going to bring in this style against this style and see how he does. And I think we were talking one time about they were trying to find out what the best moves were in each particular style, so they could take that and create one. Tell me what I'm talking about here.
Well, I think you may be referring to the Bruce Lee evolution.
Bruce Lee evolution,
yeah,
right.
When he would study all systems, and he would take what was very useful and incorporate it, and then discard everything else. And that's where, because originally, if I understand it correctly, Bruce Lee was a kung fu practitioner, and then he became a Jeet Kune Do. He created Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist, and that's all that is, man. Is that, you know, he became disenfranchised with martial arts and the structure, and he started studying all different types of arts, and he took what was amazing and what worked, and he discarded everything else. And so his theory would be everybody's Jeet Kune Do is different.
Okay.
You know, and there's no real set style, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. That is what we were talking about. Yeah, the early ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So did they ever, like, I was a big boxing fan.
Sure.
And I was a wrestler. So really that's the only fighting I ever knew, you know.
Two great things
right.
to know.
Right.
If you're involved in a street fight, boxing and wrestling, I mean,
that's all they had, yeah.
Super safe with those.
Yeah, right. I had a friend that came in from Korea in high school, and he was a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, and he got in a couple fights that just were, it was a mess. One kick, and it was over. It was like, holy cow, this is
in his favor.
In his favor. You
got it. Okay.
Yeah, just one kick, and the fight was over. It was like, this is a whole different thing. Kicking somebody in the head was like new to me. Like, wow.
Yeah, it can be really effective against an unskilled person. I feel like a guy that I used to train with back in Maryland. He was a lifelong martial artist. Grew up doing Taekwondo, and he had a reputation of being a really tough guy. And one of his friends challenged him, like they were horsing around.
Yeah.
And this guy wrestled, and they squared up, and the wrestler took him to the ground, and that was it.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's
you never know.
You never know, man.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. If you have a good command of wrestling, you're going to be pretty safe as far as distance management and controlling a person.
Right.
You know, you don't have to inflict any damage. You know, and that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know.
So in talking to you, I've learned that you teach jiu-jitsu to the law enforcement.
Yes.
So where does that take you? Do you travel around to the different police stations? And
I travel all over the country.
Do you? Yeah, right.
So, and then I actually teach a course called Gracie Survival Tactics. There are 2 levels to it. I work for Hedon and Henry Gracie. Their father, Horion Gracie, was actually, he brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the United States back in 1978, and we can get into that however deep you want.
Yeah.
And I'm a retired police officer, so I served. I did 24 years at Montgomery County Police Department, just outside of Washington, D.C. It's a large, major metropolitan area, suburb of D.C. Our agency was 1,200 officers at the time, and we serviced over like 1 million people.
Yeah.
within our county.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were a shoe-in as an ex-officer coming right in, like.
No, man. It's the Gracie family is it's not the easiest kind of thing. Somebody asked me, they're like, "Well, how did you get there?" And I say, "I don't know."
Really.
I didn't just submit a resume.
Right.
I established a relationship with Henry Gracie back in 2005 when I first met him. I was attending a law enforcement training class put on by his father, Horion and Henner, and I met him, and chances would have it, my wife's family lived in Southern California. She had a sister that lived out there, so whenever we went to Southern California from Maryland, we would go out there a couple times a year. I would go over to the Gracie Academy, and I would train there.
Really? Yeah.
And I just kept a relationship with them over the years. 2015, I actually hosted Gracie Survival Tactics at my agency. I was the lead defensive tactics instructor.
Oh, at your own place. Okay.
Yeah, so I hosted it.
Okay.
Brought, probably 60 students in.
Sure.
The following year, we had 100 students, and then 2017, which was my last year there, we had like another 60 students for a level 2, which was, it was very, very solid numbers. And then I had been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since 1997, so I got a call one day, and Henner asked me, he goes, "Hey, we're coming to your agency this week."
Yeah.
It's like the first week in May. He goes, "The week before, I'd like you to go up to Atlantic City and teach GST the first 3 days with Brian Ortega, who's a current UFC fighter and a major contender."
Right. I've heard that name.
So I taught with him for 3 days. Henner came in Thursday, Friday. He asked me to assist. It wasn't even a paying job. And then Brian went home with me that weekend, and then we did the same format the following week. Me and Brian taught the first 3 days. I was assisting Brian. He led the class, and then Henner came in Thursday, Friday to finish. And then he liked my work, and then I retired probably about 4 months after that from there, and I moved out here to California. My wife's family's out here. That's why we moved out here.
Right, yeah.
And then
then you're right in the ballpark. Then you
yeah,
go there
now,
anytime.
and then I got the call.
Sure.
Then I got the call, and I started assisting. And
when was this? 93, you said?
No. I started training in 1997.
97. Okay.
Yes, and then I met Henner in 2005.
Okay.
Then I hosted 2015, 16, 17, and then I started as an assistant instructor with Gracie University.
I see. Okay.
In 2017, and then before long, it was I was leading the classes.
Yeah, they were just coming up.
Yeah,
wow,
so
man, you've been with them through a lot
of stuff.
Yeah,
and then I had one guy ask me one time. He goes, "Man, how did you end up here?" And I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, I want to do what you do," and it was a little prickly. There was a little prickly vibe on it, and I said, "Well, bro, I mean, you don't find the Gracies; they find you."
I see, right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
It's a perfect combination of having, experience within the jiu-jitsu art.
Yeah.
And the law enforcement experience. We were a busy area, and I was a patrol guy and an instructor at my agency. So, it's all the qualities,
exactly.
that they're looking for.
I've said this a million times, but, this is part of this program is to just talk about people's journey to get to where they are.
Yeah.
Where kids are like, how do I get to where you are? Well, man, don't miss the journey.
No, the journey's everything.
Tell me about that.
The journey is everything. It's the people that you meet. They're the lessons that you learn. It's
lessons you learn, good and bad, right?
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Your mistakes, your victories.
Sure.
We call it recycling.
Right.
And recycling's good. It could be good or bad.
Yeah.
If I communicate with the student in a way that it really landed with that student, I'm going to recycle it. I'm going to plug that into my teaching methodologies. If I try something and it doesn't work, I have to be honest with myself, and I have to say, man, well, this is where I failed here, and this is where I need to massage this. And
massage it. That's a good way to put it. Maybe try it a few more times with different angles or something.
Different angle, different
be
tone.
Honest with yourself.
You have to, and the ability to be honest with yourself is key, right? Because you can sit there and just tell yourself you're doing a great job, and you're missing the boat, and you're missing students. Right. It's our goal every time we teach a class. I don't care if it's 30 people or 120 people, it doesn't matter. My goal is to connect and reach every one of those students, one way or another.
Right.
You know, and that's the importance of what we teach. You know,
right. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Yeah.
Where at?
Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Oh, okay,
just outside of Washington, D.C.
East Coaster. Sure, right.
Yeah.
And that's where you were as a police officer?
Yeah, Montgomery County.
Holy crap. That's a rough little spot there.
God,
I don't know in proportion to where D.C. is, but I know
no, we shared a
DC's
border. We shared a border with Washington, D.C., and Baltimore is, 40 miles away.
Okay, right.
You know,
right.
so
you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So, grew up there. I think some people would, it was probably an upper middle class county.
Sure.
But there's plenty of lower class people, you
suburbs,
know. The burbs, and I grew up
all levels of suburbs, isn't there?
Yeah, and it went from very urban, sharing the DC, and it went to very rural. So Montgomery County, if people looked it up, it's a very diverse area, which is amazing. They have it's a very educated population, but there's also a lot of poverty's not the right word, but there's a lot of lower income stuff in there, so that's sprinkled in there.
It's a lot of huge money too.
There is a lot of big money out there. So
politics.
They
don't make anything or do anything, but there's a lot of politics and there's lots of millionaires.
Yeah,
how that happened, but
it's the nature of the area. The federal government is there, and there are a lot of people that are servicing the federal government. So there's a lot of biotech, there's a lot of technology. Lockheed Martin is out there. It's massive. It's a really interesting area. Very diverse, man. Very diverse.
Travelers. A lot of travelers. You probably dealt with a lot of travelers as a cop. Huh?
Yeah.
From all over.
The area in and of itself is very transient. So if you go to New York City, you have an idea of what you're going to experience up there. It's got a what I want to say. It's got a not a reputation, but it's got an identity.
Yeah.
If you go down to the southeast, right, you have an idea of what you're going to experience. Amazing food, kind people. You're going to go to Texas, and everything's you're expecting a lot of meat. Whatever's whatever identity it has.
Exactly.
Montgomery County didn't have that because it was such a transient area.
I see. Right.
And once you got outside of Montgomery County, that state's freaking beautiful. You have the mountains up on the northwest, and then you have the coast on the southeast. So it's really it's really a cool state. You know.
I've been in those mountains many times. It's a beautiful spot, man.
Yes.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania all the way down through
all the way, man. Very green.
Michigan, it's beautiful out there. I miss it. Tell me a little bit about the background of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Okay, great. So the Gracie family, they migrated from, I want to say it was like Scotland.
Oh, no kidding.
They migrated from Scotland into Brazil.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, in the 1800s. And in Scotland, they were a very politically well-connected family. And that continued while they were in Brazil. So they set up shop there, and they have a very, very interesting history. And in the early 1900s, the rubber industry was booming in Brazil. So there was a mass migration from Japan to Brazil to assist with that industry, the rubber industry. And the Gracie family was very helpful to the Japanese that were coming to, set up shop.
Sure.
And because the Gracie family was so helpful to the Japanese, this guy Maeda, taught Carlos Gracie Japanese Jiu-Jitsu as a show of gratitude. Carlos had a younger brother named Elio Gracie, and his younger brother was very sickly. The story goes he was very sickly, and he could not learn this Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. So he just sat there and he just watched all the lessons all the time. And he realized his physical limitations. And with his physical limitations, he's like, well, those moves require strength and athleticism, those of which I do not have. So let me start manipulating the technique. So instead of relying on strength and athleticism, his Jiu-Jitsu started relying on timing, technique, and leverage. So as he got healthier, he was able to, put his spin on Jiu-Jitsu into practice, and he found out that for a smaller frame person, that's what he was able to deploy his techniques, and it was amazing. So it really changed the whole art. They were teaching. They got so good at their jiu-jitsu that they were teaching it, and a lot of people were like, man, this is crap. This stuff doesn't work. And they're like, yeah, well, let's fight. And that gave birth to the Gracie Challenge matches.
Right.
So people would come in, and jiu-jitsu proved itself superior against all these other arts. If you know anything about the Gracie family, they have a lot of kids.
Do they? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Carlos Gracie, 21 children. Elio Gracie, 9.
No kidding, right?
Oh yeah, these guys procreate, right? So Elio Gracie's oldest son, you know, everybody was raised doing jiu-jitsu.
Sure,
all the kids were. And Elio's oldest son, Horion, moved to the United States in 1978, and he started teaching jiu-jitsu out of his garage.
Okay.
And his intention for coming to the United States was to spread Gracie Jiu-Jitsu worldwide.
Right.
What better place to do it than Southern California? Sure. So he's teaching out of his garage, and man, he would get a student anywhere. Of course. You know, he talking to you, hey, come to my garage.
Yeah.
I'll give you a free private lesson in jiu-jitsu. And you don't realize, nobody realized how amazing these people were at their art.
Right.
And so he started just teaching people, and a lot of times these students were martial artists in other systems, and they would tell their teacher that they were training jiu-jitsu, and they're like, man, whatever, that stuff doesn't work. Yeah. And like, they come back, tell Horion. Horion's like, yeah, well, if they want to come over, they can come take class, have a little challenge match. They would sign a waiver, they'd video, and jiu-jitsu proved superior. And those
were the challenges.
These were freaking fights, man.
Okay, yeah, right.
These were freaking fights.
Sure, I bet.
So word started spreading. The student base grew. They ended up opening their first school. And actually, they didn't open the first school yet because in 1993, I feel like this gathering the students, it kind of peaked. And that's when the UFC came. So Horion Gracie actually created the UFC with, I think it was Art Davie. He was a promoter. And they built it as a blood sport. And the way they did it was style against style. So in the first one, Royce Gracie was the family representative. He was representing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They had a guy by the name, I think, Pat Smith. He was a kickboxer. They had a sumo wrestler in there. They had this guy, Gerard Gaudreau. He was, I forget what he was, a striking, like a Dutch striker.
Yeah.
And they were going style against style. And Ken Shamrock was also fought on that card as well.
Right.
And he was really, really like a mixed martial artist, like a shoot fighter. And he was pretty impressive. And he looked like an Adonis.
Right.
And
Greco or something, right?
He was like kind of I think they called him a pancrase fighter. Okay. Is what it was. He fought in Japan.
Yeah.
And then there was Art Jimerson, who was a boxer. So Royce fought Art in the first match, or Royce's first match was Art Jimerson, and Jimerson had like one boxing glove on because he didn't want to break his hand because he figured he was just going to jab and keep him. Royce closes the distance, clinches, gets him to the ground, and Jimerson, no submission at all. Royce just had him mounted.
Right.
You know? And Jimerson just tapped out. He's like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, man. Those are the times I was talking about. When they had everything from boxers to wrestlers to, all these different things, and just throw them all in.
Yeah.
That's what I remember that when it first came out. It was like, holy cow, this is going to be amazing,
And then Royce fought Ken Shamrock in the second fight, and he ended up submitting him he ended up choking him with his lapel, and then he ended up fighting Gerard Gaudreau in the finals and ended up submitting him there. But then the world was put on notice about the importance of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, Royce wasn't a big guy.
170 pounds, defeating
he
monsters.
Was out there just crushing them. That was the big deal.
I watched that.
He was a skinny little guy.
Yeah.
I
paid the $19.99.
Did you? Right.
I paid the $19.99. I wasn't even a martial artist at the time.
Really, right?
And I was just like, I watched it.
Intriguing.
Unbelievable.
Right.
I didn't even know what I was looking at.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Didn't even know what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man.
And then, I'll just give you just a little further history. Yeah. So the UFC continues. No weight classes, no time limits. You have to win by submission. And then eventually, pretty quickly, they ended up, because it was being billed as a blood sport and it generated a lot of attention from the federal government.
Right.
Regulations started coming in. So Horion Gracie sold his stake in the UFC a group by the name of SEG. They bought it and about ran it into the ground because there was so much political pressure. And then shortly after, Zuffa bought it. But so they called those the dark ages as far as the UFC, where you couldn't even get it on pay-per-view. But how jiu-jitsu made its way into the law enforcement community they saw how effective, the United States Army saw how effective Brazilian jiu-jitsu was, or Gracie jiu-jitsu, how effective it was in the cage. And they're like, well, we need a system for our soldiers to get them ready for hand-to-hand combat as quick as possible. And they approached the Gracie family. They came up with what was at the time called Grapple program for the military. And then if the military is doing it, law enforcement's going to be, right on its coattails, just kind of figuring out what an effective system is for, law enforcement officers to use in physical confrontations.
That's what I guess when I'm not a huge MMA fan.
Okay.
I don't like to see people just get the living crap beat out of them so where they're bloody and they're,
sure.
I'm just not, I guess I was more into the interest of martial arts because you could submit them.
Yes.
And stop them from doing whatever they're doing with a smile on your face.
That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu.
That's why I wanted to talk to you about as far as teaching the police officers.
Yes.
What an outstanding thing to do. You don't want them boxing.
No.
You don't want them, kicking each other in the head or kicking somebody in the head. You need to be able to take them out, either choke them out or, like you say, grab a wrist and just take them down easily. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So, really, all jiu-jitsu is based around distance management.
Okay.
You manage the distance, you manage the damage.
Yeah.
If I can't lay a hand on you because you're staying away from me, you're in business right there.
Not much you can do.
No. And if you can clinch me, I can't do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Then the fight goes to the ground. There's a control and exhaust component of it. Let's say you get involved in a fight against a bigger, stronger, more athletic opponent. Right?
Yeah.
And the fight starts and you're burning energy at an equal rate. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense that when you run out of energy, the bigger person has more energy, right? Just makes sense. You lose the fight. The secret to what we teach in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is against that bigger, stronger, more athletic opponent. When the fight happens, we're burning energy. But while the bigger person's burning energy, we're chilling. And when they're out of energy, we win the fight easily with a joint lock or a chokehold. And even that, it's probably not even going to be necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you talk about submission holds, like what we call an Americana or a Kimura or a straight arm lock, whatever it is, right? The people that, those are submission holds. Well, they are submission holds. But we call them positions of control that eventually submit somebody.
Right.
You see? So, man, there's a lot of beauty. And it's just like, how much force do you use? Who determines how much force do you use?
Exactly.
It's the person that's caught.
Right.
Because they always have the option to comply.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Or your arm's going to snap off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but, a lot of times, and that's the goal, man. You can just control somebody and you can talk to them calmly.
Right.
You have plenty of energy. You're calm, man. You can just, it's such a beautiful art, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, you've got that about you, too. I've met a lot of top wrestlers that, they're not super scary looking people, but you can see in their eyes that they're just calm. They're calmer than they should be. Right? Oh. You know what I'm saying? They're just okay with whatever's going on.
Yeah, whatever, man. It's...
Right. What's Joe Rogan say? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right. I love that.
Rogan's another jiu-jitsu guy.
I know he is. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
He'll kick you in the next week, though. He's got
he's a massive
thighs like a holy crap.
Yeah, he's a savage.
You see him going after the bag?
Yeah, he's a beast.
Damn, you're taking it off the ceiling.
And that guy, and the UFC is so lucky to have him because he's so knowledgeable about the fight game and the techniques that are occurring in the cage. I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and forget about everything else he's done. He's just, the guy's just stellar.
Yeah, right. Great conversationalist.
Yeah.
Just a great guy. Walk me through a little bit of what you teach the officers. You're walking in, or they're walking in, and they don't really know anything, do they? Or do they come in with some jiu-jitsu? Yeah,
it depends.
Maybe all over the board nowadays.
Yeah, so we have students that have no jiu-jitsu experience, and we introduce ourselves, and we're just like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Tell me about your jiu-jitsu experience." And they're like, "I don't have any training.
Yeah,
I have no jiu-jitsu experience. I boxed, I wrestled, I don't do any of this.
Yeah,
but I'm the agency's defensive tactics instructor, and I'm like, this class is for you."
Right. Yeah.
And then I meet a guy who is a 4th degree black belt, and they train under, you name it, Renzo Gracie, or whoever, Machado's, whoever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this class is for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when you're teaching in that environment with such wide skill ranges and different levels of experience within defensive tactics, people have a preconceived notion about what this DT course is going to be.
Yeah.
And you'll see it sometimes, man. Guys are just sitting in the room and they're just kind of like sizing each other up. And this isn't all the time. Just every now and again,
Yeah.
you'll see it and they're like, and you see judgments and you see this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then I give them a little bit of an intro. I'm like, guys, nobody's going to get hurt this week.
Right.
And they're like, and then you just see the room lighten up there immediately, because you're at a DT instructor's course and a defensive tactics instructor's course.
Right.
And they're sitting there and they're just like kind of.
Too much testosterone going on.
Well, just a lot of alpha.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a lot of alpha, and it's male or female, man.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's, people worried about they're going to get hurt. And it's like, man, you're not going to get hurt, man.
Sure.
You're going to take your time here, man.
Yeah.
And, safety is everything.
Yeah.
You want to bring heat to a program, get people hurt.
Yeah.
And what we teach is we start off with a basic trap and roll lesson. If you find yourself on the bottom of the fight, how would you get out? And if you don't train jiu-jitsu, you may or may not have an effective answer that's going to be repeatable for other body types and other students with different experience levels. So we teach them how to get out from the bottom of the fight, and then we carry on through, other escapes, positions of control, submissions that transition into handcuffing. And we always incorporate what we call dynamic de-escalation. Like, how do we de-escalate from here? And they've submitted to us. Now, how do we dynamically de-escalate without causing further injury or without causing further escalation? So, it's a very in-depth program. Hedon and Henner Gracie, the guys that I work for, created what it's called Gracie University.
Mm-hmm.
And it was designed for anybody to log on and learn jiu-jitsu in the comfort of their own home.
Sweet.
So the lessons that they have on there, and it's a vast, vast online learning program. And what they've done with it is that the average lesson is probably an hour long. So if you have internet access, a dedicated training partner, and a dedicated mat space, you can really learn effectively the art of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, right.
So Gracie University, their combatives program, serves as the core for the entire university. And it's 36 lessons. It's a beginner introduction into jiu-jitsu. And then they have what they call master cycle. And it's structured in a way that it's linear. So everything that you learn in the next course of the curriculum, it builds off of what you previously learned, and then you learn, so it's linear.
Sure.
And jiu-jitsu is a massive art anyway, so you take something that appears to be very unscalable, and you make it scalable by taking the time and structuring it, because that's one of the big knocks on jiu-jitsu now is that, or it's been the knocks forever since the mid-90s, that it was so unstructured, but Hedon and Henner made it very structured. And of course, it's going to continue to grow and evolve. But man, what they've done with Gracie University is phenomenal. And the combatives program serves as the precursor to their master cycle. It serves as the precursor for Gracie survival tactics. It serves as the precursor to women empowered, and even the kids programs, bully proofing and all that. So, man, what they've done with it is just absolutely phenomenal. So that can, if any of your listeners are interested, they can log on to gracieuniversity.com and start clicking around and exploring, because it's amazing.
So all kinds of different things they can do.
All kinds.
Wow.
And you can do it in the comfort of your own home. And the lessons are so detailed. Hedon and Henner are world-class jiu-jitsu practitioners.
Sure, yeah.
But, man, I would even say that they're even better teachers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Walk me through a little bit more of like the de-escalation. I think in today's world, I think that's a key with the police officers. You know, they're chasing somebody down. Something's going, testosterone's up. You know, they need to de-escalate.
Yeah.
So things go wrong. They choke people out, and it's like, is that something that you can touch on, train on, or?
Well, the neck restraint, right, is going by way of the dodo bird here pretty soon within the law enforcement community. So the control and exhaust component is something that we really harp on. You control them, you exhaust them, and then once they're exhausted, they submit, then we can dynamically de-escalate.
Yeah.
You understand?
Right.
Sometimes you could have a submission hold on somebody, and we call it an Americana, right? Simple Americana. And you don't have to put any pressure on. Person's like, they know they're caught, and they're like, okay, I give up. I don't want you to hurt me.
Yeah.
So what we teach our students is we relieve the pressure slightly. Okay, stop resisting, and I'll relieve the pressure. Do you understand?
Right.
We feel compliance. Then we progress to handcuffing. If they continue to try to fight, then we just give them a little bit more love.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you can't de-escalate.
Yeah,
no, I get it.
It's
right,
up to
right. Yeah.
So it's up to the the I don't want to say the officer, but in this case it would be the officer.
Yeah.
To be present enough to know what they're actually dealing with.
Yeah, right.
And to be able to dynamically de-escalate. Because if you put a submission hold on me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, Steve, I give up. And you don't relieve any pressure. Man, we call compliance, it's not a destination, but it's a window.
Yeah, oh, I see, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you don't give me credit for good behavior, hey, I'm going to do whatever you say, and you keep cranking on my arm, that window of compliance shuts.
Wow, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You bet.
And then
they feel like they're getting hurt.
Well, yeah, then you could
not letting up.
You could injure me.
Yeah,
which didn't have to happen.
Yeah,
or you could cause me to really want to fight, and then I fight through the submission, and now things have just gotten bad for both of us.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So compliance is not a destination, but it's a window, and we want to operate within that window of compliance to where they're like, okay, I give up. I'll do whatever you say. Okay, listen to my verbal commands. Arms flat, legs flat. Boom. Check.
Yeah.
They're complying.
Right.
Follow my verbal commands. Then you shuff the arm, move into a position of cuffing, and you're
yeah.
You see, but the person has to trust that you are going to be looking out for them.
Sure. Right.
No matter what the events we're leading up to.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of cops out there that they just are really just great people. And
yeah. Overwhelming majority are.
And those are the ones that they get so much love downtown or whatever. They're really looking out for the people. They're really showing that they care, and they really, they know the people, and there's a couple of bad apples that make everybody look bad. But for the most part, what I see is good part of the community,
Yeah. Well, I'm very pro police, man. And I spent 24 years in the profession. At a major agency, and I'm super grateful for that time there. It's like I didn't want to do anything different, and I've worked with so many amazing people that that I call friends to this day
from all over the world, from all different. Like you said, it was such a diverse area.
Yes,
it's like you have no prejudice. I can imagine. You know what I mean? Coming from an area like that.
Yeah, I mean, the neighborhood that I did grow up in Gaithersburg was a majority neighborhood.
I see, right.
So there were a lot of Asian, Hispanic, Black, whatever. So it was, I just, oh my God, it was amazing.
Yeah, right.
He was coming and teaching our DT program.
Yeah.
And he came in, and I had known him when he first got to the States. He was living in the school.
Oh, really? Yeah, right.
It was a small space. It was a tiny space. Yeah. And the guy, this was back in 97, 98. And he had his, literally had his futon rolled up in the corner and his black Trek bicycle in the corner. And great guy. His name is McGilla, Roberto da Silva. McGilla is his jiu-jitsu name. And they ended up contracting him to come over. And he had an ugly split from my original teacher.
Oh, yeah.
But he came over and he was just teaching, and I always had a lot of love in my heart for this guy. He was a great dude. And I'm training with him. I'm a purple belt at the time, and he goes, "Hey, Chuckerel, you gonna compete?" I said, "Nah, dude.
Nah,
said, I'm not doing that." He goes, "Man, you gonna compete?" I said, "All right." So he hosted a big friggin' tournament up in Baltimore.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I told my wife, I said, "Babe, I'm going to go do a tournament this weekend." And she goes, "Oh, great, I'll bring the kids." And I said, no,
that's not that kind of tournament.
I said, "Absolutely not." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "Because if I get my ass handed to me," I said, "I can't have my kids seeing me just get friggin' throttled."
Right.
Because I'm Superman to these guys.
I know, right.
And she was there, and she goes, "Okay." So I was like, man, I was probably like 185 pounds, like what I am now. Yeah, right. And then I don't know anything about cutting weight.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I don't eat for like a day. I'm not hydrated. I get there, I weigh in at 184. And then the lightest guy in my bracket was like 203.
Aye.
So I go in, and I had my first match, and it was like, I don't know, I was like 37 or 38 at the time, whatever. And I went up there, and I tapped the guy, and like pretty quickly.
Yeah, right.
And then this other, I still don't know how to keep scoring a jiu-jitsu match. Right. And then the second guy I competed against was some other dude, and he was big, like 211 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I submitted him too.
You did too? Oh, okay.
And then I went to, in my bracket. I'm competing in the finals against this other guy, and this other dude was friggin' a hoss.
Really?
And a very, very high level judo guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I get involved in the match with this guy, and I tied up, and my stand up wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
As far as takedowns went. So right. I was working on like one stand up for like a week. One takedown. So I go for it, man. This guy takes me for a ride. Boom. And I end up pulling guard, meaning I get my legs around this guy.
Okay.
And I'm throwing like these different submissions at the guy. I'm going for like a front headlock. It's called a guillotine. Mm-hmm. Then I was going for a triangle, which I was never confident in because I had short legs. But I had all these things locked up. But the guy kept peeling my fingers illegally. And then McGilla just happened to be in the corner watching the match because there were matches going all the way around. We were in a ring.
Yeah.
And he yells at the referee. He's like, "That guy is freaking stalling." So they stood us up. He's exhausted.
Right.
And then there's like 40 seconds left in the match. And then he goes for a takedown. I stuff it, take him down. And then I just end up, I ended up beating the guy by like a lot of points. I racked up a bunch of points.
Yeah.
On it.
Right.
But so I ended up winning. So
nice.
I went 3-0. And he comes up, he's like, "You going to do more tournament?" I said, "Nope, never doing it again, bro."
Done,
I'm good because, jiu-jitsu never had to prove itself to me because I was always, I been in a lot of confrontations on the street, and I was like, it never failed me.
Oh, in real life. Oh, yeah.
So I never had to go outside to see if jiu-jitsu worked. I mean, I would train with a bunch of savages.
Yeah.
I mean, monsters. Get beat up, and then I go to work, and then I get into a situation, and then they were easy.
Yeah. Right.
Compared to what I just went through on the mat. So I was just like, man, jiu-jitsu never failed me. So I was never seeking validation of the art.
Right. Just confidence there. Yeah. But that was a heck of a confidence booster, though.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I did it. My wife goes,
"Should have brought the kids."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In hindsight, that would have been really cool for him to see that.
Yeah.
Right?
Hindsight, man, but I couldn't risk it.
I know.
I couldn't risk it,
you get stuffed.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the one tournament I did, and it was fun. And it's not that, I mean, I'm very competitive anyway, but man, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, raising a family. It's like, that's the last thing I need to do is bring competition level type training into my life.
In your mid-30s, just where everything's just getting going and rock and roll and things are going good.
Right.
Just throw some more kindling on the fire. Right?
Yeah.
Nah.
Because my wife did tell me, because I was kind of an avid golfer for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And then I picked up jiu-jitsu, and she's like, Tom, she goes, I've never told you no on anything, right? And I was like, no, it's great, you know? And she goes, pick one. Pick golf or jiu-jitsu. Just pick one, because, like, I got a small kid here.
We never see you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about having another one. You know, it's just pick one.
Kind of need you here.
So I chose jiu-jitsu and never looked back. And here it was, I mean, coming towards the end of my career. And I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah. Right.
I was just going to retire. And I was going to think about going to work in a grocery store, going back to school, doing something. And
right. Weren't interested in going back into like law enforcement?
No, I mean, no.
In the office or anything else? Not after being on the streets. That would kill you, wouldn't it?
No, I wasn't. I was just kind of, I was happy. Like, I could have done law enforcement for another 4 years and been perfectly happy.
I see, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was just like, no, I just, let me see where my life is going to go.
Right.
And that's when the whole jiu-jitsu thing took off. And then the thing with the school here, I met the owner down in L.A. when I was certifying under the Gracie family. He had purchased a territory in Monterey. So I met him, and he's like, so I ran his school for like 3 years.
You were in Southern California at that time?
No,
you had to move
I
up,
was still in Maryland.
Oh, you were still in Maryland? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but the instructor training occurred in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's where Gracie University headquarters is.
Yeah, right.
So everybody certifies through going to LA and getting certified there. And then I met the owner here, and he's just like, so we hit it off fine, and I ended up running the school here for about 3 years, and then the GST thing took off quite a bit. So he's got somebody else running it, but when I'm in town, I'll teach there.
I see, right. Yeah.
So
how cool. Where you staying? Are you in Monterey now? Or
I live in Monterey.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I literally walk.
Oh, no kidding.
3 blocks and 2 blocks over.
Oh, right on. Isn't this an awesome place?
Yeah, it's dope.
I just had somebody in the other day like, I should really move because of California and this and that, but where would I go to be anywhere close to this cool of a place? It's like, I know. Where would you go?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
you piss and moan about
still California.
I know,
you can't afford to buy anything around here.
Right? It's worth renting, though.
Is it?
I think.
Dude,
where would
you
you
leave
go?
out of here. Well, I don't know, man. Your standard of living goes way up if you head out. I'm looking at Boise real hard.
Oh, yeah.
Castle Rock, Colorado is a special place. Suburbs of Dallas.
Yeah.
And DFW is a great airport.
Yeah.
I can get anywhere.
Sure.
With as much as I travel, cuts my
right.
day in half.
Yeah.
Because usually I fly through Dallas.
Sure.
Denver, I go through Denver quite a bit. So, yeah, man, all those little places are kind of cool. But I really fell in love with Boise.
I as soon as I got my driver's license, I just dropped out of school and took off for Texas. I ended up in a little city outside of Dallas called Mesquite.
Oh, okay.
It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It was so hot, and it was just different, you know, for a 18-year-old kid, you know. And yeah, I just loved it. I love Texas, but.
And you're from
Michigan.
Michigan, that's right.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah.
I was working at my dad's lumber company, and somebody's like, "Oh, my older brother's looking for somebody to frame houses down in Dallas." And it's like, on my way.
Yeah.
You know, and I just loved it.
I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to Livingston County, in 2-3 weeks. Yeah.
Is that over by Detroit?
It's just outside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from Western Michigan, so I don't know all those little.
Yeah, I'm heading over there because I'm going to Kansas on the 21st. Going to go to a K-State game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on the 28th. And then on the 29th, I'm flying into Detroit. I have to book my travel. But
Right on. Maybe catch a Lions game.
Nah. Here we go.
Loser.
They're going to be good this year, I think.
You into sports?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? You football or are you a baseball guy? Or?
Football.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hard hitters.
Football and MMA. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Who do you got this year? I haven't been keeping track very well. I know Detroit
I'm
did
hoping
real
Baltimore
well.
has a good year. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm a Ravens
That's
guy
your team,
now.
right? The Ravens, huh? Right on.
Yeah. So
I don't know anything about the Ravens, to be honest with you.
Man, they're consistently good.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not like Detroit, consistently bad.
No, Detroit.
Aside from the last few years,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, where's my team?
Yep.
Got some offensive line.
Yep. I love it, man. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, man.
Oh, you rock, brother. Man, I sure appreciate you coming in and talking to us today, man.
It's my pleasure, man.
It's a lot of fun, man. Learned a lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
I did anyways. Thank you for coming in, sir.
All right.
All right. Talk to you real soon. Thanks, guys, for watching. Got any value out of it? Hit the like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Love you guys. See you.
The relationship between civilians and law enforcement is at an all-time low. And I think a huge part of that is how poorly officers are trained. My name is Tom Chuckerel. I'm a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the former lead defensive tactics instructor at the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland. After a 24-year career in law enforcement, I retired so I could travel the country and teach jiu-jitsu to police officers full-time. When I was the lead defensive tactics instructor at Montgomery County PD, we adopted Gracie survival tactics in 2015, and it changed everything. Not only were the techniques simple and effective, but the teaching methodologies allowed us to impact our officers in a way we never had before. Even the officers who generally hated training loved the GST program. When the Gracies offered me the opportunity to travel the country teaching GST full-time, I was super stoked. This was an opportunity to combine my two passions, jiu-jitsu and law enforcement, while giving me the opportunity to have a direct impact on police officers all over the world. In most cases, when an officer uses excessive force, it's because they're undertrained and they panic in that high-stress encounter. In jiu-jitsu, we often say, learn how to fight so you never have to. By giving officers these skills, not only are we reducing the level of force in each encounter, but we're also reducing the likelihood that an officer will have to use force at all because they have the confidence to de-escalate. What Hedon and Henner Gracie have done with the GST program is remarkable. And they're not even cops. But everything changed when they started bringing on instructors like me with 20+ years of law enforcement experience. It allowed us to further adapt the techniques, making them even more applicable to law enforcement. You have Alan Manganello, 21-year veteran of the Louisville Police Department, served as their lead DTAC instructor. Mark Miller, 24-year veteran of the Montgomery County Police Department, served as a defensive tactics instructor and the training sergeant. Nate's done 22 years at the state and federal level and has served as a lead defensive tactics instructor at both. And then we got Charlie Fernandez. He's a lead instructor and our head of operations. He's a 29-year police veteran out of Arlington, Texas, and when it comes to use of force policy, Charlie is the man. Altogether, we have over 100 years of collective policing experience, and all of this is being contributed to the GST program. Since the beginning, jiu-jitsu has always been taught to law enforcement, but the way this program has evolved, jiu-jitsu is now being taught for law enforcement. Based on these improvements, Gracie Survival Tactics is now post-certified in over 40 states. But if you ask me, until every officer in the country is training at least 1 to 2 hours a week, we still have work to do.